Locha Brooks. I am the founder of First Class Educator. We're an educational consulting firm specializing in staff development. Our niche area is diversity, equity, inclusion, anything in the equity space, but we also do other professional development, leadership, beginning year teachers, and so forth. And my co-presenter,
Dase, Assistant Superintendent of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in Decatur, Illinois. A lot of times people bring up Georgia.
Yeah. We thought we were going to Georgia, and we was just going to the middle of Illinois. So happy you all are here. Our session is focused on futuristic leadership, transforming leadership through equity and innovation. It's going to take you through basically almost like a case study of our partnership and how we strategize to work with Decatur Public Schools with their leadership professional development. We're going to start with this video on race relations. We all love Denzel, right?
Yes.
Okay, he's going to give us a little word. What Denzel just shared about race relationships. Any thoughts? Do y'all have any thoughts on that? One of the things that stick out is that you can't legislate love. And think about that in regards to race relationship and maybe the position that you serve.
For me, I'm Director of Equity for Round Rock ISD, and we focus on dignity too, that every inherent living thing deserves to be respected and has value and is worthy. And so we lead kind of with that in mind, which to me lends itself to that love of loving each person for who they are and being authentically, especially our students, so that they can perform better in an environment conducive to that.
All right, so I just want to give a little background about First Class Educator. I think it's very relevant to our scope of work with working with districts and race relations. First Class Educator is my baby. My team is super diverse. I really wanted to reflect our mission of helping organizations with diversity efforts. With it, a lot of my teachers who are non-minority served as an educator for me, a part of a desegregation program. And so when I thought about entering into this line of work, I really wanted to pull in educators that I felt were grounded in this, and I know that everybody can't look like me. When we go inside of a predominantly white school district, I think it's very advantageous for organizations to make sure their internal staff match what the educational staff looks like. So I reached back to them and they were so excited to come a part of the team. Pairing them with some of my educators from the HBCU I attended, it's been phenomenal. So I like to say it's almost like a gumbo, a stew, and we do really, really good work. So I always just like to showcase members of my team just to show the diversity which is needed when you do this work.
Give you a little bit of background about myself. Again, Assistant Superintendent of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. This was one of the probably only cabinet position in Central Illinois that was created within our district to address this head on. We have a resolution on racism in our district that pretty much was sitting on the shelf. So new superintendent did come in and put focus on it to bring it to life, and those are initiatives that I lead, dealing with policies and procedures within our district and trying to make overall improvement, which I will get into later. And I used to be the Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. You know, as I tell them, diversity, equity, and inclusion shouldn't be a department. It shouldn't be over here. It should be intertwined into everything that you do. And when I talk to even our district leaders, that's something that I have to help them out with in understanding, like it's not one thing, it's something that should be a part of what we do already.
All right, so the objectives for this session is for you all to witness the benefits of strategic partnership and collaboration through our innovation with leadership coaching. Obviously, is to help marginalized students. I want to say obviously because we really want the babies to benefit from the work that we are doing. So that is our focus, and really pouring into our educators with intentional staff development so it matriculates to the students. Participants will be introduced to the effective methods that we use to ensure impactful district-wide professional development. The state of the DPS organization in 1920, that's when you all really recognized that you wanted to recruit more for the district. Met Mr. Dase at the NAFC conference in Dallas. I know you all picked up some staff at that time. It's always interesting when I had a conversation with others about how it started and I showed a picture of my team, one of the things that Mr. Dase asked, do you got some white folks? And so I was really excited because we but we had white people, non-minority staff, and again, that's the only way that I believe the work can truly be done in an effective manner. It's just reducing that barrier when you're working with predominantly white staff, is having staff that also look like them.
Our strategic plan focus fostering trusting relationships, because it started with our district leadership team. So district leadership, principals, other building leaders, and then on down to a tier 2-year rollout with our teachers. Everything that we do, we try to, and a lot of people, they have school improvement plans, they have district strategic plans, CIWPs, and a lot of times, again, when I talked about it's something sitting on the shelf. If you ask people around the district, they don't know what the strategic plan goals are or what the school improvement plan goals are. So whenever we report out about the work that we've done, we see which one of these pillars does it align to.
So that was also a part of our process and planning, was making sure that our work aligned with their strategic plan and embedded bullet points here. Our approach, so when we came in, we really wanted to make sure that we looked at all of the data that the district provided. So we wanted to recognize and celebrate any existing initiatives that they have. So we never go in an organization from a deficit mindset. We truly want to look at what work they have already done. Them having a resolution on racism, even though it was sitting there, that was already a head start. So we wanted to recognize their work, value the experience of the other professional staff that were in the district. So a lot of times we engage the staff in dialogue that allowed the staff who were in the buildings already doing some work, or the leadership in the buildings that were already doing the work, that allowed them an opportunity to share with their colleagues as well. We engage them in courageous conversations. The engaged part, you truly have to set this up. Each session, we established norms and reviewed the norms of how the sessions were to go, as far as language that was to be used, speaking from an I voice, and leaning into how uncomfortable the conversations may be. I think that's very advantageous for you to set that up when you are engaging in those tough conversations. And then we provided a lot of resources. Going inside of the district of Decatur, situated 2 hours from Chicago, 2 hours from St. Louis, we were very strategic in making sure we only focus on their local history. So we provided them with resources that showed the redlining that occurred in their community. So not talking about what happened in St. Louis, not talking about what happened in Chicago, but truly showing them, and in those respects, that opened their eyes more to how their community has been impacted by things like that. And then develop actionable plans. All of the leadership in the district had to create a building plan. And so first class educator couldn't truly hold their feet to the fire, but that was something that came from the work that we did together, was to actually have them create an equity plan for their school that they could see out and that they could actually assess. So, and then once it matriculated down to the teachers, each of the teachers also created an equity goal as well. This is our summary of our work to date. So we've actually been in Decatur for 4 years. We're on year 4 now. So we started out with an initial 3-phase plan where we worked with district leadership in that first year. All of the district leadership team, everyone on the district leadership team had to be a part of this process so that we could get the buy-in from the district leaders. Then we worked with all of the building admin at the same time. I think that's very strategic when working with a district. If you don't have the support of your district leaders, I don't think the work is going to be sustainable. And I think also creating that shared language is something that's very important in that first year. So everybody knows what we're talking about and everybody knows how important the work is from the district leadership level down. Year 2 and year 3, this is where we split our engagements with the teaching staff over the next 2 years. So every teacher within the district was able to get the same information that all district leadership got. In year 3, we integrated our program into their beginning teachers program for all of the new teachers that were integrating into the district as well. So nobody was missed in this process. So half of the schools had already received training. Teachers who were new to those buildings got it in the beginning teacher staff development. The year-long engagements were over a span of 10 months. So we went in once a month working with the leaders, once a month working with the teaching staff. Year 4, we're in our sustainability year. This truly was an opportunity for the leaders, the building leaders, to show how they could sustain the work. Some building leaders decided to add on additional services like trauma informed. They recognized that some of their teachers needed more professional development around being trauma informed. And some of them also engaged with additional equity work. So this is awesome just to see it being sustained in year 4.
You all can see some initiatives that we've actually implemented throughout the years, but I want to get down to the rollout plan again of how we started and my position. So my position, I'm diversity, equity, and inclusion. But to give you a little bit of background about that, it was recommended by first-class educators that we have an equity position. But it started out as a director of safety and security and equity. They wanted to find a person that was dealing with safety and security and equity. And luckily, we have a superintendent that listens. I was like, hey doc, ain't no way you about to have somebody do safety and security for the district and equity. And it shows that you're watering down pretty much one of the just to say, oh, we're going to address equity in here, we're going to attach this on to this position. So developing a position, and I was like, equity is everything. So if you're gonna have a cabinet position, that's almost like a deputy soup or associate soup or whatever, so they have to hit everything. So I'm teaching and learning, but I know the ins and the outs of everything within the schools, and I was supervisor of the principals. And we actually had to talk, and I was like, I don't know if I would be the best person for the position because I'm already holding people accountable and stuff, and you know how people give pushback. But looking at the people that were coming up and that they were entertaining about putting in the position, I was like, I may not recommend myself, but I'm probably the best person for this if you're really gonna do some stuff. So it was grudgingly, because again, I'm like, we shouldn't have this one position, but you gotta have the right person in it. So going off of a lot of the stuff that we've already done, like within the schools during the rollout period, that we partner with first class educators, going into sustainability. So yeah, you'll see some of the plans when we're talking about, when I was over teaching and learning, school improvement plans. We make sure this is embedded within their school improvement plan. Not that, okay, we have our equity plan over here and then the school improvement plan. We was trying to align everything in it. So we always focus on reading, math, and then it was attendance and a lot of them the cultural responsive climate. And when the leadership went through this, they did feel like, and some of it could be superficial, but they was like, this is important. So we did a survey at the end of the year and we was like, what should be some pillars within our school improvement plan? And luckily, culturally relevant climate came out. So it was embedded within their overall school improvement plan, and we was watching the data. You're doing good clicks on everything that I'm talking about.
Is it good?
So yeah. What are you improving? So first class educators, we came in, we did learning walks, and we call it culture walks for each one of our schools to get data. First quarter, we did it. Second quarter, we did the principals to do it. And then the third quarter, we came back to see, what were the improvement that we were making over time. But you got to get your leaders involved in this as well, which was a good thing, helping out with the rollout of why they knew about it. So now they're getting their teachers on board. So, again, being over principals, I'm always a proponent of, if you want something to work within the school, you need to have the leader there as well. They can't support something that they don't know about. So we definitely had to include the principals in the process. These were some of our results. So again, everything is not always quantitative as far as numbers and everything. Some of the robust data that you have is qualitative as far as comments and things that you see developing and growing throughout the district. But and some of this is directly, some of this is indirectly. But we finally started making progress on our state assessments and state report card, because, and I'll say it is for some of the work, because when we set goals for our principals, we don't just set overall goals. So for example, if it's like reading, we want you to go from 51% to 58% within that year. We break that down into student subgroups. Yes, this is your overall goal. However, this is the progress that this student group needs to make. This is the progress that this student group needs to make. So breaking it down like that. So now I always throw this out, like, you have all, you have every, and you have each. We want to get down to each student as much as possible. So yes, because you all know, if you look at data, you can make an overall gain, but you left that whole group down back there. This one group carried all of your scores. So it's like, yeah, overall we look like we made progress, but we left these babies totally behind. They didn't do anything. And I've seen that, you know, being from Chicago Public Schools and in Decatur, it can look like overall we're doing good, but the African Americans, you didn't do anything with them.
Right.
You know, the low socioeconomic white students, you didn't do anything with them. So it was like, when you really break down data right there, you see it's the ones who come with the skills,
Yeah.
who have the prerequisites and everything. So that's why you have to drill down. But we finally started making progress on our state report card. Graduation rates and attendance rate went up. Attendance, we put a strong focus on attendance because, again, they can't take advantage of it if they're not within the building.
I like the teacher retention. This was after we start integrating the content into they didn't have a beginning teachers mentorship. So we started the beginning teachers mentorship and integrated the content in there, and they seen a 10% increase in their teacher retention, which is phenomenal during this time right now.
And it's phenomenal for us all of the time, because in the district, about 7,900 students, we average about 70 vacancies a year. So you can imagine the strain that that's putting on the principals and everybody else. It goes back to, you made that comment at first, what did you say, if my phone's not working, my kids take it over.
Move fast enough.
Right. You know, so she made the comment, I was like, that's very organic, because that's the focus of me being in this position. It's like, okay, district leadership, teachers, everyone went through this, and we've seen the pushback. You can pretty much predict, like, yeah, we're gonna have problems out of that school. Okay, this school is gonna be on board. And it pretty much lined into that this year of who's going to sustain this. And I'm one, I want it to be intrinsic, because a lot of stuff can come down from the district office, and you're like, you need to do this, you need to do this, but they don't have buy-in. So it's just a compliance. All right, you want us to meet, well, we don't give a damn about equity, diversity, whatever. We went to the students. So when I first got into this position, we have K-6 schools, K-8 schools, and 2 high schools. So I went and talked to the top 2 classes in every school, because I knew one would be transitioning out. So talking to the students and talking to them about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and fast forward, you know, this presentation overview is what I went over mainly with the students. I talked to the students and then had a community meeting with every school's community in the afternoon, where parents and community came out to say, hey, this is our focus, this is what we're going to do. But overwhelmingly, we gave them a survey, and the students said, you know, they wanted to be a part of this. So now this year we have a DEI team, and some of them call them unity teams, multicultural teams, in all of our buildings. So now the students have a voice in this, and they meet monthly, and then I meet with the team monthly to say, okay, what are some things that we need to improve upon? What are some things that we're doing great within the district? But now we have the students on board in this, and you can go to our website, which we'll show you the link. We do a Rep Your Culture video every month, where we go into the schools, and students are just talking about their culture and what, you know, the big question is, what would you want others to know about your culture that we don't know? I just remember one Hispanic student was like, man, I wish they'd stop talking about food. We got more to offer than just food. Like, okay, all right, cool. Then at the high school, they was like, we need something different. You know, we're tired of these routines every day. So they're talking about their culture and the school culture, but at the same time, giving adults recommendations of how to really address us. And one thing that I've learned is we all want our scores to go up. We want our students to do better. But until you get the students on board and the students involved, you kind of like spinning your wheels, because they need to know the importance of this. It shouldn't even be a position about diversity, equity, and inclusion if we were doing things right. Now, this is the population, and this is what we're trying to improve and combat at the same time within our district. You can see we have good diversity as far as our student population, but look at our teachers. Most of our teachers, 93%, and it probably went up, 93% of our teachers are white. So our district in our town is unique. 70% of the town is Caucasian white. the district is pretty much 60% black and brown. So people don't even realize it, that if you really dig deeper, you really have some segregation already in there, because most of the white people do not want their kids educated within our public school system with the black and brown kids. So we're trying to increase, more minority teachers to reflect and look like the student population more that we have. But this is something, it's alarming, like the students didn't even realize this, and some staff members don't even realize how dramatic our lack of diversity is with our teaching staff. And again, we said when we did the survey, so you can see the survey, overwhelmingly how many students said that they were interested in being on the team. These are the ones that completed the survey. And then we had a survey as far as overall, and it was real general, how are we doing as a district as far as addressing diversity, equity, and inclusion? So we got that information from the students and the parents. I think the comments were more alarming than the actual quantitative data that we had, because that's when the comments came out of, this is a waste of time. No, you really don't do a good job of making me feel like I'm included. I've been bullied and nobody has done anything about it. So those are the robust conversations that we went back with the teachers and went back with district leadership and was like, these are the things that we need to address, because they're doing this in an anonymous survey. However, we have these out there. So what we developed is, if you go into any one of the schools now, it's a QR code where the students can scan it, staff can scan it. If they want to discuss anything, diversity, equity, and inclusion, they can reach out to me. I'll get an alert, and then I'll go out and talk to them, or if it's anonymous, I'll look into the situation. So it's called a DEI request QR code, and we also have an advocacy focusing on equity QR code. And why do we have that? Is because we have a lot of parents out there who don't know how to navigate the system. And I say navigate the system because the system gobbles up a lot of people. Thinking about, I deal with a lot of parents now with students with IEPs, because they go to the meetings, they're around there with a lot of these professionals, and what are they doing? They're just signing papers. They're just signing papers, and it's like, they don't really know. And that's why I tell educators, they really trust us. They really trust us, so you got to look in the mirror and say, am I doing the right thing by them? Because we have some influential power that parents just like, I think you're doing the right thing by my kids. And a lot of times, unfortunately, some people are not doing the right thing by kids. So I'm sort of like the advocacy for the district, and I get pushed back for that, because it's like, but I use the students. If the student come to me and say, Mr. Dase, you need to look into this, 9 times out of 10, people will give you pushback about, oh, that adult don't know what they're talking about, but they rarely challenge, from the student. So when you get the students involved in this, I think that has really been a catalyst. We focus on instructional. We have units of study in the state of Illinois that we're supposed to be addressing about the roles and contributions of other ethnicity groups. You talk to the students, they like, nah, I ain't never seen none of that. Like, I don't know nothing. Students actually told me, they was like, Mr. Dase, it's more than black and white, which they're right. There's other ethnicity groups that we're supposed to be exposing them to, but that we don't. Now imagine if we did that from a younger age all the way out through the grade levels, how much more interaction. It goes back to that Denzel. We need to interact more instead of all of these policies of saying doing all of this. So those are a lot of focus as far as with exposures, the learning walks that we did with first class educators, and then you can see some things that we've done throughout the year. And one thing that we're doing right now is like a matching challenge. So we match for the whole quarter, we match one ethnicity group with another person. And the students can do it, the teachers can do it, but you're dialoguing and you're engaging with someone from a different ethnicity group and seeing what you can find, what you can learn about that and what do you like. And then we meet monthly on a Zoom call just to see how it's going. But trying to think outside the box and get people to engage.
Going back to the comment that Mr. Dase made about some of the work cannot be quantifiable, we learned that through the information that we shared with the Decatur community about their history, one school was actually in the process of planning their construction for their new building site, and so they had to choose a name. We introduced them to the history of a gentleman named Ellsworth Dansby, who was a Tuskegee Airman. So when the consultants went in for their particular session, they put the picture up of this gentleman and asked him if they knew who he was. Nobody in the room, including, majority of the teachers have lived in the district. And so even the principal, she didn't know who he was. And so they shared the information about him, how he was from the community. He actually served on their school board. And so they actually decided to name their school in honor of Ellsworth Dansby. And when they called and let us know, based off of the information they learned, they overwhelmingly voted to name that building after this gentleman. That felt so good, because going into the work, we're gonna get them to change the names of their schools. That's not a part of the plan, but to see things like this happen.
You all have access to the presentation and to our contact information, so if there are ever any questions about how did you implement this or whatever, feel free to reach out at any time. But we did want to leave time for questions and answers, maybe some things that you saw or you're inquisitive about anything.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I am curious about the matching up program that you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how, do you have a set of questions, like pre-planned questions already?
No,
and
we don't have any.
It's natural.
It's just natural. Put it out there. Yeah. Matching challenge, and if we just call everything a challenge, for lack. But people just sign up. They sign up and say, yes, I'm interested in this, and then we just pair them with someone that is from a different ethnicity, race, and they dialogue during that time. We just share email and phone number, and then they make the connection, and each month we'll get together, and it's just like a progress and an update. Hey, how's it going? And a lot of them like, man, I ain't know this about people, man. I ain't know y'all really did this. But that's opening them up to just trying to understand people. Because my thing is, we're not going to change people overnight, especially not adults. But if you are open to learning a little bit more about people, and then it kills a lot of the stereotypes. People say racist stuff at work, stereotypes, and it was like, it changes their mindset. So that's all we're trying to say is like, just have the respect for people. And we go back and forth with the dialogue like that as well. Like, I'm pro-black, but that I still got respect for other ethnicity groups and other races, and that's all we want. You can be pro whatever, you can be pro-white, pro-black, but at the same time, just have respect for others and be open to listening to them. And that's how we start that dialogue with the students. Because one of the questions in the last session was, how do you feel when people ask you about your race or ethnicity? And the students was just like, I love it. I want to learn more about them, but I think people need to do it more. And that's one thing that came out. The students were like, why don't they have us teach about our heritage? And I was like, yeah, why don't we do that? Because again, adults make decisions about kids without including kids. And when it gets to the kid, they're like, who the hell was in that room? We do, this ain't for us. So as much as possible, whatever you're doing, ask yourself, how can I involve the kids in this? So, and the kids are involved in it as well.
So then do you keep it at a secondary level, or will it go to, or do you have it at
No, it goes all the way down to 6th grade, 6th through 12th grade.
Okay.
6 on up, because we have some community members. So I can definitely share, and it's simple. We developed a QR code, doc. We advertised about who would be interested in this. They just volunteer. When we get the information, we see their names, and then we match them together. And if they come on, everybody's not on a Zoom call every month, but if they come on, they tell us about their dialogue. But at least, and this is how I'm gonna use this quote. A lot of times they want to say, oh, well, you don't have enough people participating in this. But I always like to say, we don't think about what we are preventing a lot of times. So initiatives, you may not have a lot of numbers and stuff, but you opening that person's mind could prevent them from doing something against another person in that race, or can open their mind to thinking about something else. So yeah, you're not gonna change the educational system overnight, but when I think about the classroom, if I could change the mindset and make progress with these kids in front of me and everybody focus on that, then I'm preventing a lot of stuff from happening out here in my community and society.
So this is pertaining to my son. So he is in a choice program. He's one of 3 African-American boys in his class. It was almost like they picked one of each race just so they could be the quota. So these kids have been together since kinder. Now that they're in 3rd grade, race is starting to become something that they're noticing. And so during Black History Month, my son wore a Black History shirt, and the kids, you know, one of the kids made fun of it, and one of the kids laughed about it. You know, we've had conversations like the kid said, "Hey, I'm drinking chocolate milk," and you know, it looks like you, Mason. You know, so it's like, even though you started at 6th grade, the conversations in elementary have to happen when you're not in a diverse community. His school has 1 Black teacher in the entire school. So, of course, me being an advocate, I spoke to the principal, and she said that trying to find African-American teachers to go into this community has been difficult. So I saw your numbers. How are you recruiting more African-American teachers? I would love for a Black male to be in his school just so he could have an advocate there. But, you know, even with the librarian, they have no books in their school with African-American characters. And my son asked, so I buy him some, but I don't send a whole spreadsheet full of, look, you can get all these right there, you know. So just trying to be that advocate. So in that, I said, well, go to HBCUs and try to recruit. But what are you doing in your community to try to recruit African-American teachers, especially males?
Right, good question. And that is an area of improvement. You'll see that on our resolution on racism. That is one of the sections that we need to focus on. But I tell them, we gotta go out. And part of being in diversity, equity, inclusion, I can go on some of the recruiting trips and stuff, but we're in a pocket of Central Illinois where you have Springfield, Urbana, Bloomington, and you got Chicago that pays more. Right. So a lot of people are like, I'm not staying here, I'm going other places, you know, to make more money and, you know, for various reasons. But we have to make a conscious effort to go out to them and show that we have people that look like them and that we will embrace them. Because a lot of districts, they'll do that, and they'll come back with 1 or 2, let's just, you know, Black teachers. But then they put them in a school with all white. And that's hard, you know, and I tell people, like, we shouldn't do that. Like, we shouldn't put 1 Black teacher in a school with all white teachers and they have nobody else to relate to. So that can be the struggle. It's like, we're almost trying to recruit in teams and recruit in groups. But that is an area of development. Then when you talk about, and I've been on this mainly because I've been here, you're talking about Black males. Well, what people are failing to realize is the reason you don't have Black males is because why do you really want me to invest in a system that didn't invest in me and that has ostracized me? And it may not impact me as much as him, but I saw you do this to my friend and stuff. So now, that's part of the reasons why you don't have a lot of Black males in the system. The system is mostly white females, Black male. You can't get no further apart. That's why we have most of the issues. So, but going back to your son, I always like teachable moments. When you're trying to do things right, you're going to get pushed back, and you, unfortunately, they're going through that. And like you said, this is the first year we did this, so that's why we did 6th through 12th grade. But I am a strong proponent of whatever you want to enforce and sustain, it has to go all the way down to the early childhood level. Because people always focus on middle school or high school. You know how much they got embedded in them until by that time. So what you're trying to correct, you know, they like, dude, I ain't seen you. Get out my face. So you got to start at the early childhood level, and those are areas of development. Are we doing good work? Yeah, we're doing good work, but we have a lot of room for improvement.
So I'm curious about any legislation that y'all may have in your state that impacts what you're able to do, what you're able to require people to do. I'm just curious about that.
You just hit on it, the requirement. Like the first 2 years with the teachers, that was required. But now getting it to sustain is like, that's where we have culturally relevant standards within the state, but you can't make the training and stuff required. So it's sort of like conflicting. So if we really want to bring this in, but you can't make it required, then do we really believe in this, or did we just put these standards and stuff out there? So part of that is, and I can see that policy because you can't make it required. It's some more things that, you know, school district, because it's all locally controlled. So even though we have policies at the state level, and I'm central office, I was a principal. Sometimes if there ain't nobody checking on it, I'm going against policy.
And that's
So that's the reality of it. And there's some things that's happening in my district that we've had conversations about. I'm like, I go back to the boys in the hood line. Either they don't know, don't care, or don't want to know what's going on in the hood. It's like, how can this stuff go on and nobody actually monitors this? And that's from the top of, that's where you get that local control stuff. Because you got districts doing this, but then you want equity, diversity, and inclusion, but some of the policies go against actually implementing that. So, yeah.
And I will say it has been easier for our work to be implemented in Illinois because of the state standards. So we can say that our work aligns with the Illinois state culturally responsive standards. But again, it's up to the district to bring us in.
Yeah, because you ask anybody what are the standards,
Yeah.
everybody would fail that test. I'm almost sure they would.
Would you like to go to Florida and do what you do?
Yeah, we'll be challenged. Or here in Texas. So
I want to bring us up.
with that.
And that goes back to, if you're doing this work, it's unfortunate, but it's almost like hope for the best, but plan for the worst. And some of the worst is you're gonna get pushed back. Your job might even be in jeopardy. But it's like, are you gonna take this on and really do the work? I know I'm getting pushed back every day. I mean, I'm in a system that wasn't really set up for this. But I gotta be happy with what I see in the mirror. So that's where we at.
So this is an equity needs assessment for those of you who serve in a seat to where if this may be some work that you're interested in, you can certainly scan this QR code and put your contact information in there. Let us know how we may be able to serve. And then for those of you who would like to connect on social media, we're very active on social media. So I'll let you all scan this and then go to.
I'm Twitter. I just do Twitter.
I do Instagram. I don't Twitter. I'm on there, but not on there. But I love Instagram.
Or X, whatever they call it. Twitter or X.
All right, and then too, if you have not done so already, how did we do? And that concludes our session. We thank you all so very much for coming.